Hey fighters, welcome back to the channel. People think worth comes from being kind, from being loyal, from being the one who's always there. But here's the truth the world keeps from you. Kindness is common, effort is everywhere, loyalty is expected, and still, even after doing everything right, you feel unseen, feel underestimated, feel like people only remember you when they need something and forget you the second they don't. So let me wake you up. The world doesn't reward kindness, it rewards necessity. Machiavelli knew this better than anyone. To be valued, you must make others rely on you. You don't rise by being polite. You rise when your absence becomes a problem no one can fix. Think of every powerful figure in history. They weren't chosen for being nice. They were chosen because without them, everything fell apart. Here's the harsh reality. If you can be replaced, you will be. If they can live without you, they will. If losing you doesn't cause pain, they'll never truly respect you. So from today, your focus must evolve. Stop trying to be liked. Stop begging for attention. Stop giving endlessly without return. Instead, become dangerously essential. Become the one they can't overlook, the one they can't substitute, the one whose presence drives everything forward and whose absence makes it crumble. Remember this, power isn't about being visible, it's about being vital. That is the Machiavellian law of worth. Silent, sharp, unavoidable. And before we go on, I want you to type this affirmation in the comments. I make others depend on me. Say it, claim it, live it. Because once you become essential, the world shifts its view. People treat you differently. They fear losing you. They guard the bond. They give more than they take. You stop being a side character in someone else's story. You become the source, the force, the reason things move. And that is where real influence begins. If you're truly ready to uncover the darker method that turns your presence into a privilege and your absence into a nightmare, stay right where you are. Because what comes next will forever shift how the world treats you. Number one, the illusion of value. Society has conditioned you since childhood to believe that your worth comes from being good, from being polite, from doing what's expected without resistance. But that belief is exactly why so many people live unseen lives, while those who grasp power rise effortlessly above them. Because there's a dangerous gap between being appreciated and being valued. And most people waste their entire lives chasing appreciation, smiling when they don't mean it, helping those who never return the favor, working endlessly only to see someone else take the credit, believing that kindness earns respect when in truth, it only earns convenience. And that's why the hardworking, nice one is always the easiest to replace, always the first to be forgotten. You must grasp a core truth of the real world. People never value what they get freely. They admire what they have to fight for and fear what they cannot afford to lose. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be needed than to be loved. For love is held by a thread that can snap, but necessity binds with chains none dare break." Every time you try to prove your worth through kindness alone, you drain your own strength, because kindness without leverage becomes weakness. Loyalty without limits turns into exploitation, and effort without control becomes servitude. The powerful never scream their worth. They construct circumstances that make others depend on them to succeed. And once dependency takes root, control comes naturally because people always defend what they need, even if they don't truly like it. Think about the times you gave everything to people who gave nothing in return. When you showed up for everyone, yet no one showed up for you. That happened because you believed that doing more made you worth more. But in truth, it only taught them they could take without consequence. You were conditioned to chase approval, to fear rejection, to think being useful was enough. But usefulness fades. Usefulness can be replaced. Usefulness can be copied. And in a cold world built on self-interest, the replaceable are always forgotten. Real value begins the moment others feel the discomfort of imagining life without you. And that only happens when you stop trying to be everything for everyone and start becoming something so specific they cannot function without it. This is your turning point. No more free favors. No more endless giving. No more silent pain hoping someone notices. From now on, every action you take must raise your worth, must increase the cost of losing you, must transform your presence into a requirement. If you keep living for approval, you'll die feeling overlooked. But if you start living for power, the world will have no choice but to respect you. And before we move to the next principle, type this in the comments and own your transformation. I refuse to be replaceable. Number 2, the law of dependency. If you seek real power, stop chasing validation and start creating reliance, because people only protect what they depend on. And once your existence becomes tied to their progress, comfort, status, or survival, you evolve from insignificant to indispensable. That is where real influence begins. Understand this. Dependency isn't manipulation, it's strategic positioning that ensures others crumble without your contribution. And Machiavelli once wrote, "The wise leader makes himself essential. When his presence sustains balance, his absence becomes feared." Most people chase approval or affection, hoping someone will finally recognize them. But recognition vanishes the moment someone easier comes along. Dependency, however, builds obligation, fear, and loyalty that cannot be easily severed, because the price of losing you becomes too steep. You must identify a skill, a resource, or a mindset others desperately need but do not possess. Then refine it until it becomes rare, until it becomes something they cannot imitate or replace without cost. Think of every influential figure in business, relationships, or society. They are not admired because they are kind. They are respected because their absence brings disorder. And that is exactly the position you must claim for yourself. When you establish dependency, people will seek you out even if they dislike you. They will agree with you even when they silently disagree. And they will defend you even while envying you because their own balance depends on your existence. And no one willingly cuts off the hand that sustains them. The sad reality for most is that they offer help with no system to ensure that help is remembered or rewarded. They give effort freely and then wonder why no one values it. You must act with intelligence. Link your actions to return. Tie your support to benefit. Anchor your knowledge to importance. So when someone profits from your presence, they feel the burden of owing you. Because when people owe you, their behavior changes. Suddenly your presence carries weight. Suddenly your voice holds influence. Suddenly the idea of losing you becomes a risk they refuse to take. Build an environment where access to you is restricted, where your time is costly, where your input shapes outcomes. The stronger your boundaries, the greater your perceived value, and the more they will pursue what they once took for granted. This is the law of dependency. Power isn't taken. It's designed by making others believe that without you, stability collapses. Stop giving everything away without price. Stop giving your loyalty to those who don't deserve it. Stop making sacrifices no one asked you to make. Instead, become the driving core of progress in every space you step into. And before we continue, write these words with absolute certainty. They rely on me. Number 3, unseen power. Power becomes most dangerous when no one notices it at work, because visible force provokes resistance, while silent influence breeds unquestioned obedience. And this is the kind of authority Machiavelli truly admired. The kind that directs decisions without ever needing to shout or display strength openly. Invisible power is when people think they're acting on their own, yet every choice aligns perfectly with your intent. When they believe the idea was theirs, though in reality, You planted it long before they became aware of it. Machiavelli once said, "The greatest power moves others without being seen." And this is what the sharpest minds master, shaping reality from the shadows. Weak individuals try to control with noise, threats, and ego, but that only exposes insecurity and desperation. The more visible your control becomes, the easier it is to resist or attack it. True dominance flows like air, unseen but essential, quiet but inescapable, allowing everyone to breathe while reminding them that without you, they suffocate. When you turn into a subtle presence inside someone's mind, shaping what they fear, desire, and chase, they follow not because you demand it, but because they believe your guidance is their own will. Cultivate the ability to read intentions before they're spoken, to detect insecurity before it surfaces, to predict reactions before they unfold. Then position yourself as the silent answer that moves them forward. And soon their certainty will depend on your presence. You become part of their inner voice, the whisper that asks, "What would he do? What would she think? Should I ask them first?" And when you reach that stage, you no longer push to be included. They pull you into every choice themselves. In every room you enter, don't announce your worth. Watch, calculate, spot weaknesses, then quietly link yourself to the outcomes that matter. So when something succeeds, you're the unseen reason behind it, even if no one recognizes it right away. That quiet gravitational force is what makes others revolve around you. Don't argue, don't boast, don't over-explain. Let your actions steer behavior until people naturally move in rhythm with your vision without needing direction. When you become the calm tactician in a world drowning in noise, chaos parts on its own, because people start trusting your judgment without you ever demanding their trust. Influence is most powerful when it feels effortless, when others see you not as competition, but as the element essential to their clarity and growth. Invisible power means you are not the spotlight itself. You are the current that keeps the spotlight burning. Before we continue, affirm your dominance by commenting these words with conviction. I command quietly. Number 4, strategic absence. Being endlessly available is one of the quickest ways to lose value. Because when you are constantly present, people begin to overlook your effort, your time, and your influence. That is the trap most ambitious people fall into, believing visibility creates respect, when in truth, it often erases it. Machiavelli once warned, "Excessive presence destroys the image of power. Absence reveals it." He understood that the art of disappearance is one of the most overlooked tactics of influence. Strategic absence is not avoidance or weakness. It is the deliberate act of knowing when to appear and when to vanish so that your presence feels rare, significant, and quietly intimidating. When you respond instantly, attend every meeting, and give yourself too freely, people stop treasuring your attention because it demands no cost. But when your accessibility becomes limited, your significance multiplies immediately because humans instinctively gauge value by rarity. Step back intentionally in critical moments. Do not overexpose your abilities. Do not answer every message. Do not justify every choice. And observe how perception transforms. Suddenly, people start anticipating your input. They begin to wonder about your actions. They start noticing the void your absence produces. And that tension alone elevates your authority. You are no longer a tool to be summoned at will. You are a variable. They must account for a presence that shifts outcomes simply by being absent. Absence is leverage. It compels others to act, to question, to seek, and ultimately to value you far more than they did when you were always present. Apply this intentionally in every connection, every workplace, every endeavor. Your withdrawal generates desire, necessity, and acknowledgement without uttering a word. Remember, power is first psychological, then physical. How people perceive you dictates how they respond. And nothing changes perception faster than the tension absence creates. Let your silence operate like gravity, drawing attention, building anticipation, and reminding others of what they risk losing. When your presence is scarce, your influence becomes indisputable. Do not confuse being liked with being essential. The two rarely coincide, and only through calculated withdrawal can visibility convert into authority. This tactic also shields you from exploitation. Those accustomed to constant access cannot control what they cannot reach. Suddenly, you dictate the rhythm of engagement. Every absence should be intentional, strategic, and timed to maximize psychological impact. A missed call, a delayed reply, a selective appearance, each reinforcing the narrative that your presence is a privilege, not an entitlement. Number 5, systemic value. True influence is not about being the hero who swoops in at the final moment to save everything. It is about designing the system so that success cannot occur without your involvement. And when your role becomes structural rather than ornamental, you transition from optional to indispensable. But when your accessibility becomes limited, your significance multiplies immediately. Because humans instinctively gauge value by rarity. Step back intentionally in critical moments. Do not overexpose your abilities. Do not answer every message. Do not justify every choice. And observe how perception transforms. Suddenly, people start anticipating your input. They begin to wonder about your actions. They start noticing the void your absence produces. And that tension alone elevates your authority. You are no longer a tool to be summoned at will. You are a variable. They must account for a presence that shifts outcomes simply by being absent. Absence is leverage. It compels others to act, to question, to seek, and ultimately to value you far more than they did when you were always present. Apply this intentionally in every connection, every workplace, every endeavor. Your withdrawal generates desire, necessity, and acknowledgement without uttering a word. Remember, power is first psychological, then physical. How people perceive you dictates how they respond, and nothing changes perception faster than the tension absence creates. Let your silence operate like gravity, drawing attention, building anticipation, and reminding others of what they risk losing. When your presence is scarce, your influence becomes indisputable. Do not confuse being liked with being essential. The two rarely coincide, and only through calculated withdrawal can visibility convert into authority. This tactic also shields you from exploitation. Those accustomed to constant access cannot control what they cannot reach. Suddenly, you dictate the rhythm of engagement. Every absence should be intentional, strategic, and timed to maximize psychological impact. A missed call, a delayed reply, a selective appearance, each reinforcing the narrative that your presence is a privilege, not an entitlement. Number 5, systemic value. True influence is not about being the hero who swoops in at the final moment to save everything. It is about designing the system so that success cannot occur without your involvement. And when your role becomes structural rather than ornamental, you transition from optional to indispensable. Machiavelli once said, "A wise man constructs a system so that he cannot be removed from its operation." And this is the essence of systemic value, the mastery of embedding yourself so deeply into workflows, networks, and decision-making that your removal disrupts outcomes and exposes your true importance. Most individuals pursue recognition for heroic acts, applause for visible effort, and attention for handling immediate issues. But those fleeting accolades are temporary and easily substituted. Whereas building frameworks, establishing protocols, or shaping strategies ensures that your presence is perpetually necessary and your absence becomes costly. Begin by pinpointing the core elements of any operation you are involved in. What keeps things running? What guarantees stability? What links resources to results? Then make yourself the linchpin, the nexus through which everything passes, the one whose participation ensures continuity and effectiveness. When people depend on the systems you've built, they will instinctively defer to your judgment, value your time, and safeguard your role. Because losing you means losing order, efficiency, and progress. Systemic value also demands foresight, anticipating bottlenecks, redundancies, and vulnerabilities, and providing solutions before problems even surface, so that others start seeing your contributions as invisible infrastructure, vital yet seamlessly integrated. Unlike being liked or admired, which can be fleeting and subjective, systemic influence is measured by outcomes and dependencies, making you untouchable even if your personality is quiet or unremarkable. The truly powerful recognize this. They do not chase fame or approval. They craft environments where removal is unimaginable, where every process, resource, and team relies on their guidance, insight, or participation. It is a form of silent domination. While others focus on short-term wins or surface-level recognition, you are building permanence, a network of interdependencies that collapses without you. This is how empires endure and organizations revolve around one indispensable figure. The system outweighs the individual hero. To develop systemic value, stop thinking in episodes and start thinking structurally. Where can I design frameworks only I can operate? Where can I embed knowledge that no one else fully possesses? Where can I connect my actions so tightly to outcomes that removing me triggers collapse rather than continuity? This is the Machiavellian path to influence that transcends charm, effort, or visibility. Before moving forward, declare this truth in the comments and internalize it. I build the system. Own it because the world bends to the one whose presence guarantees survival, progress, and control. That is the moment you stop being merely valued and become absolutely necessary. Number 6, psychological integration. Becoming genuinely irreplaceable requires going beyond functional utility and embedding yourself into the psychological fabric of those around you. So your presence is no longer optional but central to their confidence, stability, and success. When people start linking their own achievements to your involvement, you move from being a valued contributor to a critical pillar. Machiavelli once noted it is not sufficient to simply be present. One must intertwine with the very identity of others. This insight exposes the depth of influence ordinary power seekers often overlook. Psychological integration is subtle, deliberate, and invisible. It means your guidance, advice, or support becomes internalized by others so profoundly that they cannot envision decisions or progress without your input. It means your absence sparks unease, doubt, and hesitation. And it means your opinions, priorities, and habits subtly shape the mental framework of those you influence. Most people operate with shallow influence. They help, they advise, they instruct. But once a person or group realizes they cannot maintain balance without you, you have entered a level of authority far beyond any title, award, or recognition. Begin by studying their needs, fears, ambitions, and vulnerabilities. Then position yourself as the stabilizing force that alleviates doubt